Good morning, ladies and gents. Today, we pick up where we left off again, but this time we're getting a lot further. We've already got some tooltip stuff in place. We've got classes kind of set into place. Obviously, all the information is not plugged in, but I'm probably not going to worry about that. As is, I'm going to look into doing the racial modifiers, if any really exist. We'll fill in what this next button does, and we'll start to look into ways to serialize all the information that we've been putting together this whole time. Because now we're starting to get to the point where we have the information, we just have to do something with it. So one of those things that we have to do is take care of that. We also have skills we have to distribute. Sorry, I'm messing with my necklace. I need to... I realized it was way too loose, and me swinging my head around is causing it to flap all over the place. So, let's see. Let us see. Yeah, so racial stuff, cool. Character storage, great. And figuring out what else we need to take care of. Right now we have things sorted kind of into pages. So what we need to do is, one thing obviously is going to be a page 2, which is going to be our skills for the most part. Skills and any other like miscellaneous stuff. So portrait is going to fall under that as well. I'm trying to think of other things that might do the trick, but honestly, I'm not coming up with much. So we'll just see. But we have page 2. Hitting next on page 1 is a fairly simple thing. All we do is we say, take page 1 and hide it. And then we say, take page 2 and show it. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple stuff in terms of UI. The other way that we could go about this is that we could use some controls and just have a Playmaker finite state machine take care of this. At the same time, I feel like that's actually kind of overkill because the state machine would literally be walking forwards and backwards in just a straight chain of states. And that's really unnecessary. That's kind of a complete overkill for the amount of effort that we, I think, want to be putting in here. So, now that we've got page 1 in place, and we want page 2 to go down, how do we want to take care of this? Well, we probably want something similar to page 1, right? And also, let's see, if I hide page 1, okay, title, let's get title out of there. I'd like to be able to actually have some stuff persist between UI. It'll make it look a little cleaner, play a little nicer. Also, instead of a next button, we'll want a next button, don't get me wrong. But we'll also want a previous button. Hey, look at that, we have a next button. Which the next button might turn into our finished button. So, I mean, it might not be the end of the world there. Yeah, Nozdrum, to kind of explain better, I know there's some software that essentially takes your 2D sprite, breaks it up into a bunch of different pieces. So you've got like an arm piece and a hand piece, and it essentially glues them together at certain points. And once you've got it glued together a certain way, it then allows you to do animation curves the same way you would with a 3D object. And essentially the joy there is that you don't have to do any hand animation with actually drawing out separate frames. All the animation is done with the bits and pieces. And if you're doing a fighting game, you could then at that point say, oh, well, now that I've got that in place, now I just have the collision boxes on each of the parts fixed, and because it's made of bones, the same way that a 3D model is, it shouldn't cause you any trouble. But yeah, that's just like one of many solutions. So, take it as you will. Just flipping back through chat, I realized that a bunch of stuff has already been said this morning, and I'm just kind of in need of catching up. We have a next button. We also should have a previous button, just, you know, for sanity's sake more than anything else. There we go. Next and previous. For now, we can just fix up previous to do the opposite of what the next button does. And this next button, we'll figure out how to handle it when the time comes. So we've got, this is going to be a pain in the ass because we have got a lot of skills. And we've got to dump down some UI for pretty much all of them. Let's see here. I am going to nab one of the physical stats pieces and drag it across, because we do have the 3 types of skills. And so what I want to do here, and this shouldn't be too difficult, but let's see. Drag this across to about there and about there. I actually don't know if I'm going to need all this space. I probably don't, honestly. Let's clear out the innards of it and think a little bit while we put stuff down. Whoops. Yeah. I actually don't know why I grabbed this entire thing. Well, I know why I did. Let's keep one set of buttons. So there's our plus and minus that we're going to keep. So we need a bunch of these along with matching text. So I probably should have tossed the text so quickly. This is physical skills, because, yeah, you know, we've got our skills also broken up into a trio of things. We've got our physical skills, our kind of academic skills, things you would learn from training or from experience, but not really something you sit there and, like, flip through a book and pick up. I guess that's kind of academic. You could do that. You just wouldn't be terribly good at it. And then we have kind of class-ish skills. So we've got a whole list of things that we need to take care of. And I'm pretty sure they're actually in code somewhere. So I'm going to dig for those. Probably in the player character, if nowhere else. No, I see. I saw it right there. That's a skill list attribute. Okay, I'm actually close. Oh, and here's a skill used. So let's just hunt that down. Okay, it's with inventory items. I'm not sure I agree with having that live near inventory items. In fact, I'm kind of tempted to make a file of just all the enumerations and stash them all away in there so that they don't pick up kind of cruft or stuff from being in other weird files. And because we're not worried about Unity complaining about much, I'm actually just going to take... Okay, you don't have any, but you have the class enum. So let's get that out of there. And since items happen to have... Oh wait, no, they don't. It was inventory items. There we go. This has a lot of enums in here. So let's just get that crap out of here too. And since we're going to be stuffing a bunch of enums in here over time, what I want to do is I want to get them in alpha order at least so that I can see and find where things are fairly easily. So character class, great. Equip slots, cool. There we go. That's much cleaner, and it'll be much easier for us to find things when we go hunting for a wild enum somewhere. Let's see if we have any others running around in files that we like don't want there. A lot of Playmaker stuff, a lot of conditions and body parts. Those definitely should not be in a character file, as nice as it is to have them in the character file. Okay, there we go. Any others? No, that one lives kind of within. And this one kind of makes sense where it is, honestly. So I'm going to leave some of these where they are. Not all of them deserve to be kind of lifted off to wherever I want to put them in this file. Some of them make sense where they are. It's only the ones that I think are probably going to be used by multiple things. That's when I want to take it and shift it out of where it currently is living. Okay, there we go. Like trap components inside an item container makes sense because that's the only place that's going to be used. So I'm not too worried about having that in there. Same with having trap types. I don't care about, especially since this is internal to item container, I'm not worried about where that is. I don't want that to change where it is. But this weapon attack type is used by multiple things. So let's take it and dump it into the bottom of this file. The party mode being with the party, spell targets and spell domains being in spell, that's all fine. Cool. A little bit of cleanup. This makes our life a little easier. Make sure nothing's complaining still. I do notice there's a ton of warnings in here. I'm just going to take a second to figure out what the heck is going on. Okay, it's some piece of code run by someone else. I might not be able to get rid of as many of these errors as I was kind of hoping. Use scene. Oh, what? Yeah, scene manager dot load level async instead. And where does scene manager come from? Interesting. It has its own namespace. Dot load level. Oh, load sync scene async. Interesting. Let's see here. Set active scene, unload scene, scene count. Get active scene. Cool. Lucky for us, it's not difficult to recreate a lot of the functionality here. The only thing it looks like they're doing is they're still missing... Oh wait, no, merge scenes. So we say, merge that. And except the only thought here is that I don't see an asynchronous call. So I'm actually going to leave it and stop futzing with this. As nice as it is to get some of the warnings out of here, because obviously warnings are going to be more than a little bit they're going to be more than a little bit distracting. Can I like reset a scene object? Or I'm trying to figure out what's the easiest way to handle some of this. There we go. Okay, cool. So we got a couple errors knocked, or a couple errors and a couple warnings cleared up. Mostly because I don't like seeing the warnings crop up. Every time I move over to Unity, having this like deluge of warnings is just, more than anything else, it's distracting. I want to go out and clean them up, and I want to do it right now. And I probably don't need to. I probably don't need to honestly handle it like that. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Well, the easiest and kind of most clean way I can think of doing this is that we are going to, inside the UI, we're going to have a, let's see here, scroll view. There it is. Woohoo! And the scroll view whoops. Scroll view is going to complain a little bit. Oh no, it's not. It's just in the wrong place in the sort order so that things are getting drawn over it. That's something that can easily be handled. In fact, I'm tempted to shift the scroll view out and just say, well, we only really want a label and some buttons out here, at least for now. Let's just get all this stuff out here, and then we can just nuke that. Scroll view, can we adjust things? Because honestly, I'd like to adjust things. We don't want horizontal. We only need the vertical on this. The background is a source image. Well, I've kind of got a better source image, so let's just use this. That actually looks a lot nicer already. Excuse me. Morning, Lemony Fresh and Soups. How's it going? Alright, so the big thing here is we've got this physical label should probably... I guess I could put it at the top of the scroll view. What we need to do is we need to look at the content part. And everything that we want to show up in the scroll view as part of the scroll view needs to end up under this content node. And then everything after that we can easily take care of. Also, this thing's kind of monstrous. Just saying. If we look at the scroll view itself, as nice as it is that it's taking up this whole thing, let's size this down more than a little bit, so that we can at least have our... Okay, I like that spot. We can have our things sit in the right place. Because we will need space for another one of these fancy schmancy tooltips, because we're going to have a lot of skills, and we need to make sure that we communicate to the player what each and every one of these skills does. So we need that, and we also are going to need the kind of some of the same stuff we had going on before. So we need, let's see here. This physical label is quite odd. Oh my. What are you doing, Unity? Stop it. This shouldn't say strength. I need to actually come here, my lovely design doc. So what we want to do is a few things. One, we want to make sure there's a tab system. So we have a couple buttons here at the top that will switch which one is in view. And we also want to make sure that we're able to have points that you can distribute between all of the stats, which means that we need some way to mark off what stats are, or sorry, what skills are and aren't available to a player based on a whole bunch of different qualifications. So for example, the fact that they are a priest or a wizard would then give them access to the spell weaving skill. That's something that no other class is going to have access to, and we need to make sure that every class has access to only the right skills. Otherwise, bad things. Let's see here. Race classes, hey! Yeah, and from what I'm seeing here, every class has different has a different set of weapon and academic and what's that third set of skills? I'm failing here. Physical skills. Really? Wait. Oh, I have weaponry, academic, and physical skills. Got it. Physical skills being things like hiding or disarming traps might fall under that. I need to look that up. Let's see. What other physical skills exist? Hiding and backstabs, searching, trap, disarming, stealing. I need to come up with better skills. It feels like my skill list is a little weak at the moment, at least in the physical department. So this shouldn't say physical. This actually just needs to say weaponry. And of course, I find that is a little too much text. That's fine. I actually don't even think I want this label here. I've got too many other things already running around inside here. I probably don't need another label with more text. Actually don't even know if I want to make that much smaller too. I like the length of this, if only because I'm not sure that this is going to take up the whole thing or not. Alright, axes, crud. Where's my skill list? I dumped it in that enum file and then I proceeded to almost lose that enum file. See, look at this nice long list of skills. The problem is, if you look at it, these are weapons. These are, let's see here, up to here are all mental. And then I've got this like last 6 that, or not even 6, these last 5 that trail on the end that I don't have anything better to do with. And so I need to figure out a better way to handle some of these. Alright, so let's just start generating more of these. And I am starting to see an issue insofar as I can't actually tie things easily to the right place. So I might just have to do this one at a time. There we go. There goes that. And no, by blunt, I do not mean the weed implement. I mean the you hit people with blunt objects. Specifically, that's like clubs and such. Hello, horniest of men. You started on your second... Ugh. Sorry. You started on your 2D game. Sweet. Awesome to see the folks diving in and making their own games. That's something that I know it can be difficult sometimes, but I'm always happy to know that folks are getting interested in the concept of making games for themselves and diving into it. Brawling, yeah, because, you know, you might find yourself without a weapon someday, and knowing how to brawl isn't a bad thing. Let's see here. After brawling, what else do we have? Staves should not be up this high. I'm kind of curious why it is. Because honestly, this is probably going to break a bunch of things, but I actually can't help but notice that a lot of this is out of place. At least if I'm doing this in alpha order. QRST. I mean, what am I thinking? I have no idea what's going on here, but whatever. So the one thing I just realized is that with not all of these being available, that we're going to either have to disable a lot of these, or we're going to have to find a way to insert them one after another in a list and then kind of reshift them so that they attach to one another nicely. And what I'm thinking is we can do this with less content and more control, maybe. The problem is if we do this more dynamically, the more dynamic stuff is going to be trumped by the fact that it's going to take more code, and I kind of prefer more content over more code. There we go. Crossbows with a lowercase b. Inverted Space Invaders? Nice. Hey, you know what? It's a good... Space Invaders is a great place to start. The simplicity of the code, there's AI, but it's incredibly simple AI. All you have to do is tell them, here's the path you walk, and here's how often you fire. All of the logic is fairly simple, but when you put it all together into something, you have to make sure that all the pieces play nice, and that there's a little bit of collision, and there's a little bit of point keeping, and there's a little bit of, you know, cool little events that you need to set off, like the little mothership that floats across the top and makes its own sound effect. You know, when you add your own particles to make things explode and look cool, or make screen shake whenever you fire, like all these things help with the feel of the game, and you can really make it your own. You can do a lot to make that game yours, and that's fantastic. So, there are daggers. Oh boy. And I know this is a lot of data entry, guys, but we gotta get through at least some of it. I probably am actually going to skip ahead to the part where I do the transitions between different skill sets. And then at that point, once we've got all our transitions in place, I can fill out the rest of this offline. So as long as I have a couple examples, I actually should be good. So let's actually do that. So this is not just the scroll view, this is the weaponry scroll view. And what I'm going to do here, we've got the academic scroll view. And then finally, we will have the, I'm calling it physical not sure I like it, but we'll kind of get around to that later. One thing at a time, really. Let's set some of the skills in each of the other scroll views so that we have this working correctly. And then from there, we can take care of everything else. So, for example, alchemy is one of our skills. And instead of blunt weapons, we have an artifacts skill. And there's a botany skill. And bluffing is a thing. I just realized L comes before O. I am really bad at all of this, like, skill setting stuff. Like, why is cartography before cooking? How does that work? Okay, at least the rest look like they're, like, correctly set. I must have been really tired when I was working on this. Obviously, ordered by importance in real life, cooking does kind of overcome cartography, especially in today's modern era of everything on a GPS unit all the time. I can definitely understand that. Alright, cool. So we've got our academic skills. I'm going to hide that back, and we're going to crack open the physical skills real quick. Unhide that. And our physical skills. There definitely aren't nearly as many of them, but we do need to take them just as seriously. Hide. Lockpicking. A lot of these are very class-based, so I'm thinking that maybe I just need to come up with more class-based skills and handle it that way. Put all the very specific things into here, so two-handed fighting might fall under here. Or I'm trying to think of, like, other abilities that, would fall happily under this guise. Because I definitely need more than 4 or 5. Yeah, I've got 5. That's dumb. I shouldn't be able to have so few class-based things. We need to open that up. So I'll think about that some more. We'll see what we can come up with. So we've got our 3 scroll views. Great. Now we need to be able to cycle between them pretty cleanly. And this is where that kind of tab system that I was thinking about comes into place. And we're not actually going to have tabs, as nice as that might be. In this case, it's actually really easy to fake tabs. All we have to do is generate a couple buttons, and the buttons will turn things on or off. And we'll just make them look like tabs by placing them in certain spots and making them act a certain way. But otherwise, they're not actually going to be tabs. We kind of fake it. That's actually a lot of game design, is faking it. So there's our weaponry button, and this is going to... I wish there was some way to start it clicked, because right now it doesn't look like it's clicked. And that's something I really wish I could do. That or some kind of radio button, but I don't think radio buttons are a thing. I think it's just buttons or toggles, and I'm pretty sure the toggles, even though they have a toggle group, I'm pretty sure, let's see, let's look this up real quick. Unity toggle group. Okay, so that actually might be what we're hunting for, except that Oh, except that even though only one can be picked at a time, the thing going on here is the fact that, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. That's silly. As nice as it might be to have one start toggled on, it doesn't look the way I want it to. And that's really what some of this comes down to. So I'm just gonna keep going with my current plan. So there's our weaponry toggle. Here's our academia toggle. And I am taking some words from wizardry for that because, well, I think it's awesome. Oh, that's a toggle. That is actually a toggle. I did not mean to make that a true to the word toggle. Wait, what's that then? Oh, that's a button. Okay, so there's our weaponry button. And here is our academic button, which needs to say that, otherwise it'll look silly. And finally, the physical button. And yeah, that'll need a different name. I'm definitely unhappy with having physical as a type of skill. Because all skills, to some degree, are, I don't know. It just seems weird to have it that way. Just seems bizarre. Alright, our UI sprite is off. We want it to match everything else in our aesthetic at this point. So let's just get that fixed up. Specifically, there we go. We make it match like that. We also need to mess with the text so that it's readable, which means not only switching our font over to our standard font type, but also sizing it up, changing the color, and maybe adding an outline, although it looks fine, honestly. Yeah, that outline looks good. I don't need to worry about that, I don't think. Alright, and they all need 3 things. They are all going to want each of these objects to be turned on or off based on the information inside. So we're going to set active on all of these and then one by one set them inside. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so weaponry will be that one on. Academia obviously turns that one on, and physical turns that one on. Great. Test it out real quick. So weaponry is the one that starts on. When we hit academic and then physical. And the fact that they're all scroll views right now, I think I'll need to keep the scroll view for academic and possibly weaponry. Nice, but that looks pretty good. We're going to have to come up with a way to toggle all these skills on or off. That's really going to be the hardest part, is when you hit the... Ooh, hey, that works out very nicely. When you hit the point where you need to decide, okay, well, you know, I've picked my class, I'm going to be a guardsman, here, let's put the rest of my points away into something, you know, hey, look at that, I'm a guardsman now. It should turn certain skills on or off based on whether or not the, cross vows? No, cross bows. Just realized I can't spell apparently. There we go. Much better. We also need a new tooltip window. So I'm actually just going to steal the existing one. And actually, I'm kind of tempted to keep the same one. You know what? We'll duplicate it for now. And the reason I'm duplicating this more than anything else is so that when I change pages, I can shift where this thing is ever so slightly. Because right now, its previous position wasn't bad, but it wasn't terribly great either. Shift it over a little. See if we can't keep this tooltip window in the same place. If only because I want to make sure that the player can then, as they see the tooltip window crop up or not crop up, I want to make sure that it gets taken care of and that their eyes don't have to search the screen for the tooltip. I want it to be big, I want it to be obvious, and we want to make sure that it's very clear what's going on. Now, obviously, we're going to have to modify the content of all these tooltips eventually. For now, though, I don't really care. I'm just shifting what tooltip window is being used by all of these scroll view objects, because we want to make sure that, there we go, there's the physical. We want to make sure that they all, for now, are just plugged in correctly. Okay, there isn't a different tooltip for each of them, but the tooltip is clearly working for all of them. Cool. This is what I get for sitting up and watching Angel way too late into the night. Totally worth it. Awesome 90s TV show, but also means I've been missing a lot of sleep lately between job and this and wanting to have some semblance of a social life. Definitely means you miss sleep sometimes. Alright. So we've got the skills, we've got the tabs, we've got tooltips. What else? We need a point left indicator. That's something that we had previously, and I just need to fix up again. And I do like keeping all the information in the same place again. I'm trying to keep all that information in the same spot. We'll see how well it goes, but I definitely think that if possible, I should be doing that very deliberately. Alright, so there's our skills. Skills and points left. I'm going to go through and remove these erroneous ones after it, because that does nothing but annoy me. And just to keep the architecture looking very similar, I'm going to shift things around. That looks pretty good. That looks actually a lot better. So we've got skills. Is there anything else I want to fit on this page? I could fit the portrait picking on this page. We do have a little bit of space. If we turn the tooltip window on, we can see we've got this little chunk right here that might be nice to either fill in or make sure we can handle. I'm trying to think of what else honestly might be able to go there, because having empty space like that isn't the best thing in the world, obviously. We want to make sure that we pack kind of as much as we can onto the screen without having it overflowing or gushing with information. We don't want to overload the player. We just want to make sure that they understand everything that they're getting into here. We could just put something decorative there, right? We could go through and say, well, you know, I just want an image. Where'd that skull go? I like that skull. I really do. I want to have it in a bunch of places if possible. But yeah, we could do something like have it, you know, sitting somewhere here. Just as, you know, decoration, so that when you switch between pages, you know, why not? Okay, great, we've got this, like, random image here, and it just takes up space. It doesn't really do anything else. It just looks pretty. We'll think about that. I'll have to think about that. Also, we'll need to come up with a background at some point. Ooh. Ooh. Oh my. I can't seem to keep myself from yawning. Let's see here. Just to look at these textures really quick while we make a character, I definitely want something in the background. I don't know what, but I would like to have some kind of texture sitting on the background just to break up how the how it looks. Even if it's something as simple as like a stone wall texture that just repeats over the back, or we already have this wood grain texture or this bark grain texture being used. So maybe something more along the lines of like one of these other floor textures or wall textures that might just break up the kind of monotony of just a flat black background. Let's see. UI image. And just to set it so that it always matches the size of everything around it. And you'll notice it's covering things right now because it's pretty far down in the hierarchy. So we have to dump that as the first thing in the hierarchy pretty much at all times. And actually, let's see here. Instead of image, UI raw image, because raw image gives us this UV rectangle. It allows us to control the UVs of the object, and when we can control the UVs of the object, we can then tile things to our heart's delight. So we can say, oh, I think this is too big or too small. Why don't we tile this or UV tile it so that it looks a little better? For example, let's say, yeah, I'll start with the dirt background, but I don't need to. But let's say I don't like the look of it, right? I want to double the size of it. In fact, we can even go so far as to use it to flatten a texture that might be getting stretched in a certain direction. So this kind of adds a little flavor. Not a ton, but it adds some. It makes you feel like you're not looking at something quite so boring. Obviously, I have a lot of textures floating around at this point, mostly because at this point... Okay, that's not too bad looking. Once again, though, if we want, we can do something like this. And you see how changing the UVs messes with the look. We can say, oh, I want a lot of bricks in the background. Okay, that looks nice. But what if I call this looks a little noisy? So why don't we cut this down? Why don't we have half as many bricks? Well, that kind of looks a little nicer. It looks a little more retro and old school, honestly. You know, that might be a honest improvement, depending on what we're hunting for. Is there anything else? I don't know if there's anything else. That carpet texture. No. As cute as that is, no. Definitely not what I'm hunting for here. Skulls. Also, the one thing to keep in mind with raw images is that it does always repeat a number of times equal to your UV number, because in graphics card world, everything goes from 0 to 1. So what happens is, ooh, that's trippy. What ends up happening is every texture is essentially set and normalized to a 0 to 1 scale. So it's 0 to 1 and 0 to 1? Or maybe it's 0 to 1. Honestly, I don't quite remember. It's been a while. But the big thing to kind of keep in mind is that regardless of what's going on, that it's always going to be that 0 to 1. So when you set it to 4, when we set our UVs to a width of 4, it's going to do one of two things. If you have it set to clamp, it's going to go 0 to 1 and then stay at 1 all the way up to 4. So you're probably only going to see one copy of the image. If you set it to 0 to 4 and it's on repeat, it's going to go 0 to 1, 0 to 1, 0 to 1, 0 to 1. It's going to do it 4 times. Flag texture is kind of cute. Flashlight cookies. Oh boy. I probably should get rid of some of this stuff. If only because the extra crap floating around is going to take up a ton of extra space inside. It's going to take up a ton of extra space inside our game, and we're going to have to, at some point, take the executable and kind of turn it down to the smallest possible thing we could come up with. The grass is a kind of cute one, but I don't know. Leaves. The metal bands honestly don't look all that bad. Yeah, I'm not really seeing a ton else that looks like we could put a roof. We're also going to have to find some way to make this mesh with whatever our main menu texture is going to be. So we kind of want to keep in mind that whatever we're doing here, that it's also useful for us when we get over to the main menu details, so that it's not just this weird kind of hard to tie together amalgamation of things. And seeing as how, water doesn't look all that bad, but doesn't look all that great either. We could go back to our standard wood grain that we've been using this whole time, but I'd really rather not. I did like some of these stone textures. And also this diffuse actually looked pretty nice. Let's turn it up ever so slightly. And let's just leave it at that. That's actually not bad looking. Where did I learn Unity? I pretty much self-taught Unity. I've already known programming for quite some time, so the idea of learning something like Unity, it was really just a matter of wanting to put the effort into it and spending the time to learn all the ins and outs of it. Because Unity has a lot of quirks to it, and there are a lot of little gotchas that if you're not careful can really, really hurt. At the same time, it wasn't terribly difficult to learn because there's a lot of good stuff in terms of tutorials and content to example content, and lots of good documentation. When there is documentation, Unity tends to do it pretty well. So there's a lot of details here that really, really can help you learn. And there are also a lot of streamers that like to stream Unity development like myself. So watching people like this can just teach you little tricks and things. Alright guys, I have to get going. I'm already actually kind of late. So thank you very much for joining me today. I know we didn't get as much done as we hoped to, but hopefully over the next few days I'll be able to churn out a lot more content. We'll see. For those of you who are here for the first time, thank you very much for joining me, checking out the channel. And if you want, I would love it if you hit the follow button in the corner there. Otherwise, thank you guys for being around and helping me through some of the less interesting stuff. I know a lot of UI can be definitely less interesting in terms of just kind of making it, I don't know, making it through all this stuff is difficult sometimes. It's not mind-numbing exactly, but it's not far from either. So I appreciate the help, guys. Thanks again, and hopefully, I don't know about a stream tomorrow, but we'll see. As things get into the Christmas times, family obviously is going to be an obligation of mine. Also, a haircut at some point, because holy heck, my hair is long. So, well, I have a bunch of stuff to take care of. I also have to, like, wrap gifts and buy a couple gifts still. So, last-minute Christmas shopping is, kind of a thing. So thank you very much, and if you want to follow my Twitter, or if you hit that follow button, those are two easy ways to know when I'm about to come online. Thanks again, guys. Have a great day. See you later.